And can you see that all right?
Yes. Would you hold that?
Yeah, I will. Whoops, sorry.
Can you go back one?
I can, but it'll take me a minute,
Oh.
sorry. I'm sorry, it started up again in the same spot.
Betty, I think Carol was gonna talk about what's happening after the slideshow, and
Yes, right.
Okay.
Oh, one of you is, I guess.
yes, she will.
We still have a lot of people coming in. Okay.
Microphone. Hello?
Oops, sorry.
Hi, Tina.
Hi, I'm going to ask you to remain muted while the audience watches the slideshow.
Okay.
sorry. It decided to go back to the beginning before it was already completely done. But Carol, go ahead if you wish. We'll bring it back.
Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to the celebration of Charlie Kraft's life. I am Carol Smith, a Kendal resident, and a member of the Kendal Resident Memorial Committee. Shirley's family and friends are in various parts of the country, and so thanks to the wonderful world of technology, we are gathered to celebrate her life, both here in person at Kendal and via Zoom. Although Shirley was Jewish and followed Jewish traditions throughout her life, Shirley and Bob personified and embraced the Quaker values of simplicity, peace, integrity, community, and quality. Knowing this, her daughters Tina and Lois have chosen to have this celebration of her life in the style of Quakers. Attendees are invited to stand as they are able here in the auditorium, and someone will bring a microphone to you. Or on Zoom, you may raise your hand to share memories or reflections or stories about Shirley. The sharing can be spontaneous without any pre-planned speeches. We will alternate participation between the Kendal attendees and those on Zoom. Please say your name prior to sharing your thoughts. At the conclusion of sharing, we will follow Jewish tradition by reciting the Mourner's Kaddish. The transliteration is in your hard copy program and will be shared on the screen for Zoom attendees. Fran Steyer will lead us in that recitation. Light refreshments will be served after, and all are welcome. The family requests donations be made to the Anti-Defamation League or the Kendal Employee Appreciation Fund. Thank you.
So we have Tina. Tina, you wish to speak? Go ahead. Tina, are you going to speak? Oh, you're muted again. I'm sorry. You're muted again.
Okay, sorry. I think I'd know it by now. I just want to thank you all again for making this so easy for everyone. And thank you all for coming. It's so it's wonderful to see all these faces, and I know my mother would be so appreciative. So I just wanted to talk about a couple things related to my mother. There's one anecdote that I've always felt really captured my mother's essence, and I've always thought about it over the years. I'm hearing an echo.
I am too, and I'm not sure why. Oh,
That's better.
okay.
Thank you. Years ago, while playing tennis in Center City, a group of 5 to 6-year-old little boys who were watching us play referred to my mother as an old hag. This was startling, especially since you have all seen the slideshow and how objectively beautiful Mom always was. Instead of taking offense, she responded by promising to bring them all her old tennis balls the next time she played there. She told us later that she thought they were probably very poor and didn't possess much. I have always held that in my heart as a clear example of her empathy, kindness, and lack of ego. Her wisdom was a guide for me throughout my life. I thought I was going to find this easy to get through. I'm sorry. And I frequently asked her for advice. I didn't always follow it, however. For example, Mom always emphasized the importance of steering clear of discussing politics with friends and family. She followed that advice, and I never saw her offend anyone. And I must admit, I rarely followed her advice about that. One of the most remarkable things about my mother, I literally just realized today, and another way I did not take after her, is that she never complained about anything. She and Bob had this quality in common. Even when she was going through difficult times, for example, losing her husband, our dad, in an accident, or dealing with her second husband's dementia at the end of his life, she never confided in anyone or complained to anyone. Today, I asked her best friend, Selma Kaufman, if she confided in her throughout these periods, and the answer was no. She never even leaned on her closest friend. She and Bob just plowed ahead in life, always accepting the good with the bad without a complaint. I will always remember her for the beauty she exuded both on the outside and inside, the joy she brought to others, and the love and compassion she practiced throughout her life. I've always been grateful to have had her for my mother and lucky that it was for such a long time. Thank you.
Lois, please go ahead. Unmute yourself. Go
I
ahead.
guess you could say I got lucky. I had Shirley Kraft as my mother. I had her for a good long time, 68 years. Mom was everything I needed her to be. She set an example for me of someone I could strive to be like. She was warm, friendly, educated, compassionate, involved in her communities, a strong family member, a woman of action. She was classy, well-dressed, and beautiful. She was adventurous and well-traveled. She was grateful in spirit. She was kind. I'm grateful, along with my sister Tina, for all the wonderful visits we made to see Mom and Bob at Kendal, as many as we could fit in each year, even in a pandemic. The photos we took are ours to cherish the memories. We never let the distance interrupt the strong, loving bond that we nurtured up until the end. I guess you could say we were lucky.
Bonnie Weiss has her hand up as well. Bonnie, if you can unmute, we have been hearing an echo from your area. So unmute, and if there is an echo, we'll mute you again and ask you to return. Okay, Bonnie, go ahead.
I'd like to say, when I was a child, my parents.
Bonnie, what is happening is that you have two computers open in your room at the same time, and they're competing with each other. So if you could locate that second one and turn it off, and let's try again. Meanwhile, is there anyone else that would like to speak either here or in the auditorium?
Now it's
Bonnie, we're still having that echo. All right, James and Rick, unmute yourself and go ahead and speak.
Hey. Yeah, I'm James Stein, Tina's brother-in-law. My husband Rick and I were fortunate to know Shirley through Eric and Tina when we lived near them in the Philadelphia suburbs. Shirley and Bob were role models for us. They were always interested in other people. They were sociable, easy to be with, curious about everything going on in the world. And as her daughter said, Shirley never complained, and she always seemed to enjoy what life had to offer. Soon after she moved into Kendal, she invited Rick and me to visit her there because she just wanted to show us around. And it was clear to us how much she enjoyed living there. We're glad to know that she received such excellent care from the staff at Kendal and found so many friends among the other residents. So I think many of us would agree she was a role model, but the challenge for me is following her example because she really set such a high standard for all of us.
And Chef Edsta has her hand up, or his hand up, I'm sorry. Would unmute yourself and go ahead. Go ahead.
Eric, that's you.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I didn't hear my name. Hi, I'm Eric Stein, and I'm married to Tina, Shirley's daughter. You know, I was thinking about what I wanted to say, and I started looking at mother-in-law jokes online, which maybe this isn't the appropriate forum. But you know, mother-in-law jokes usually revolve around one of a couple of themes. One of them is the mother-in-law's cooking. That really didn't apply because Shirley was always a great cook, and she always wanted to help out the kitchen. Another theme, I don't know why there's an echo. Somebody have a mic on?
Yes.
Another theme is the friction between the son-in-law and the mother-in-law. And again, there's nothing that applies there. Shirley was never critical of me. She was always very welcoming and happy to be with us. And I really adored her, as you all probably know. I never had the pleasure of meeting Tina's dad, but one of the first experiences I had was it with Shirley was when Tina said, we really ought to go to my mom's house. She's having some people over that I'd like you to meet. And we went there for an evening of cocktails and dinner. And Shirley, of course, did all the cooking. And the first thing that impressed me was there were just so many friends that she had been friends of theirs for decades, and they did a lot of stuff together. There were book clubs and dinner parties and bridge games and just so many friends. And at that point, I was taken aside by Selma Kaufman, who's, I think, on this call, who began interrogating me to see if I would be good enough for, Tina. And I guess I must have passed because, we ended up together. But you get to see somebody differently when you see them through somebody else's eyes. And I just want to relate an anecdote that Tina's heard before. It goes back about 25 years to when our daughter Allie was involved in a program called Young People's Theater Workshop in Swarthmore, led by a woman named Claudia Carlson. Claudia was a very imposing figure. She was very dramatic herself. She was big and open and warm and wonderful. And Tina told Claudia that Shirley would be coming to see the dress rehearsal at YPTW. And I still remember Claudia's face when she saw Shirley walking down to greet Tina. And Tina said, "Oh, there's my mother now." And, Claudia's jaw dropped, and you could just see her eyes widen as she's probably thinking, this woman looks young enough to be Tina's sister. And you could picture Shirley, she was still a brunette at that time. She wore this long red wool coat. She had a hat and a bag to match, pearls around her neck. It's great. And, she was very elegant and very open. And all the pictures you see her, she's smiling. And just that was Shirley. And that's what I remember the most. Thanks.
John, you have your hand up. If you can unmute yourself.
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is John Batchelor. Tina and Lois, I'm so pleased that I can be part of this today, and everyone else that's on the call. I had the good fortune to work with Shirley during her professional career in Colonial School District. And it was just, well, I have to start out. Shirley graduated from Temple School of Social Work and was immediately hired by Montgomery County Intermediate Unit as part of a program called Project Find. Special education federal law had just been signed, and school districts, school entities had a responsibility to find and identify children for special needs. Shirley worked at the intermediate unit a very short time and then came to Colonial School District as a school social worker. I met Shirley September 1st of 1978 when I also, excuse me, was hired in the Colonial School District as a home and school visitor school social worker. Shirley and I shared for 3 years a 9-foot by 9-foot office. We were in the back of the library. We had 2 glass walls, and I have to tell you, they were wonderful 3 years being in that wonderful, intimate office with Shirley Weingrad. She was Shirley Weingrad at that time. And obviously, we became very close friends. And we shared lots and lots. And I must also echo, Shirley never complained. She never complained about her life. She just, I never heard her complain. Tina, the story about the tennis balls and the young kids, she didn't learn to be a social worker at Temple. She had all those qualities in her, and she brought them to her work in Colonial School District. We worked together for 13 years until she retired. I actually was fortunate enough to be her supervisor the last 3 years, even though Shirley certainly didn't need supervision at that time. Several people have talked about her cooking. Shirley and I both like to cook, and I pulled out 2 recipe cards that I have right here with me. I'm going to hold it up. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. This is her recipe for Russian chicken, and you can see it says S. Weingrad, and this is in her handwriting. I have so many wonderful worn recipes from Shirley. Again, Shirley was professional in her work. She was a wonderful, wonderful friend and confidant for me during those years that we worked together. And I feel so fortunate to have been part of her life professionally and also as a friend. And again, I'm so grateful that I can be part of this today. Thank you so much.
Bob McKinstry has his hand up. Bob, if you wish to unmute yourself.
Actually, Polly had her hand up.
It was actually me, but we're all 3 sitting, Bobby and Beppy and I are all sitting together. I met Shirley later in life. My mother had died in 1998, and 4 years later, I believe it was Tina that introduced
Eric.
Oh, it was Eric? All right, introduced Shirley to my father, and they hit it off right away. And at that time, they had a common interest of activities of tennis and dancing, and they were both interested in music and bridge. Anyway, Shirley started coming out to visit us with my dad. Almost every time I saw him, he was with her. And they started even going, they went on our family vacations with us, and we had a lot of fun. And Shirley showed her non-complaining and adventurous, being adventurous on some of the activities we would go on. One of the first ones was riding donkeys in Mykonos up the side of a mountain. And then I think probably the hardest one for her was we went to Costa Rica and went whitewater rafting, which my dad wanted to do. And dad just loved it. And Shirley tolerated it. And she was 80 years old on this. Really, it was pretty big rapids. And then I remember her riding the people movers in Copenhagen, I think, 5 years after that. Anyway, Shirley just was always game and joined in with everything, never complained. And she was always very loving, and her grin when you would walk into a room, she just would be so happy to see you, and her warmth would spread all over and make you feel so warm. She, even when her memory started sometimes failing, she always knew me and knew my kids and my husband. And she was just a wonderful person who really made 21 years of my dad's life wonderful, and I'll really miss her.
And I think we have John McKinistry. Your hand is up and you are unmuted.
In addition to all the things that people have said already, the thing that we valued most about Shirley was her wisdom, which was timeless. And we often heard stories from Tina that when she was thinking she'd like to do something that may be involving other people, Shirley's advice was always stay out of it. And we thought that was a very succinct way of putting things. But the advice that we loved most about Shirley really is another take on the idea of judge not others lest you be judged yourself, was unsolicited advice is never welcome. And that is just such a valuable piece of advice. We've followed it ever since. We're so grateful for having known her, and grateful that she was such a great companion for our father.
Deb, I think I see your hand up. Would you like to unmute?
Hi, I'm Deb Weingrad. Aunt Shirley was one of my favorite aunts, and I just wanted to say that whenever I thought of her and think of her, I think of my beautiful Aunt Shirley. And it's so wonderful that she had so much love in her life. And I'm just going to really miss her. Thanks.
Lois, if you wish to unmute.
Hello, my name is Rudy Becerra. I'm Lois's husband. I just want to echo what Eric said earlier. I remember when Lois and I met in Washington, D.C., and I invited Lois's mother to come and join us for an event that we were hosting. And when she walked in the room, I thought I saw a Renaissance woman, because she truly was. Her beauty was amazing, and I saw where Lois and Tina got their beauty, not only outside but in. Blessed that she was with us when we had our first child. It's always nice to have family, especially when we're not giving a how-to book on how to raise kids. But Shirley was here when Alana was born. She was such a help, because obviously there's no to-do book on how to raise an infant in particular. And I was completely so beholding to her, because she was so compassionate. She was so loving. And she taught me the do's and the don'ts. She was just a beautiful person inside and out. When I first met Bob, they were in Cancun together. I think they had just started dating. And my Bob story is, we're all by the pool. They were at a all-inclusive resort, and Bob takes out the shirt and puts all of us to shame. He was in such great shape, always his whole life, always athletic. And I used to love taking him to baseball games. He loved, the Philadelphia baseball team, and I used to take him to the Braves just to upset him. When he was here, I'd take him to a Braves game, but he Philadelphia was his team and the Eagles were his team. But we're going to miss both of them tremendously. Shirley made an incredible impact in my life personally, and I miss her every day.
B.A. Weiss, you can unmute. Go ahead.
Hi, Tina, Lois. Sorry to have to talk to you at this time, but I just want to tell you a memory that I have that I think was so wonderful. My parents left me for an overnight with Shirley and Richie when I was a child. And I didn't spend many overnights away from home. That was usually in a hospital. And I just want to say how wonderful Shirley was. It's a memory I can't forget. She did just silly things like letting me help her in the kitchen. And she let me help her with holding the baby. And that baby, of course, is Tina. And then Uncle Richie taught me how to make hospital corners on a bed. And to this day, every time I make a bed, I think of that overnight. And I just want to say, I remember your mother as a caring, wonderful, elegant woman. And I'm just sorry for your loss. Thank you for letting me participate. That's it.
Michelle, I see your hand is up.
Yes, my name is Michelle Perry. I am Deb's niece, and Aunt Shirley. I've known her all my life, and she was just a fixture at every single family gathering, and I was always struck by her classiness. She was always such a lady, and she was always smiling. And more than that, her kindness just seeped out of her. She was such a kind person, always smiling, always had something nice to say, gave great hugs. And I always loved when I saw Aunt Shirley, and I would run up and give her a hug and say, Aunt Shirley. And so she'll definitely be missed. My heart was just aching and just so hurt that the world has lost such a beautiful soul. She was just such a gift, I think, to all of us, but also to the world. And I didn't know that she was a social worker. I used to be a clinical social worker as well. And so that makes me happy to have that connection. And I remember when Bob came into her life as well. He was such a nice guy. I didn't really get to know him very well, but I could tell that he made her very happy, and he was a very, very nice man. So I just want to say that she'll be missed, and I'll always love Aunt Shirley. She always brings a smile to my face when I see a picture or think of her. And Tina and Lois, I love you all, and I miss seeing you guys. I live in Texas now, so I'm quite a bit away, but just know that distance knows no bounds with the love, and that's all I have to say.
Can you hear? Can you hear?
Are you coming in by telephone?
Yes, great.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Thank you. This is Cynthia, or when I grew up, Leslie Cynthia. And I have nothing new to add except that may she know how beloved she is and was and will be. And may she have a beautiful journey to a wonderful rebirth. And I do have something, actually now I remember as in Journey. My mother was very cared for by her, protected and loved and nurtured in many important ways, as we all were. Thank you.
John, I see your hand is up. Would you like to unmute and speak?
Hi, John Stein, Tina's son, Shirley's grandson. We called her Mom growing up. This has been incredibly wonderful and fascinating to hear some of these anecdotes and to see the slideshow. A lot of these stories and a lot of these pictures I'd never seen before and hadn't heard before. We had, that I can remember, one small piece of family lore about Shirley from the past, which was that early on when my parents were dating, Tina called my mom up and asked, what should I cook? I don't know how to cook, and we're having this date together and I'm supposed to make a meal for Eric. And so she talked her through one of her recipe cards. Other than that, we don't have too many stories. And you know, in the last decade of calling my mom, or even talking to her at family gatherings, either she would, after 30 seconds on the phone, say, oh, you must be busy, I'll let you go, despite my efforts to keep her on the phone. And in person, she was always concerned with, how are you? How is are your friends? You know, she would know them by name. How is your dog? How's your work? Everything. It was never about her, which I think really embodies her persona and selflessness, but also made it difficult to know who she was. So getting some of this lore and these pictures, there was one time where I was able to learn a little bit more about her, which is when I spent a season in Montana and was able to visit the Burt's, her brothers and brothers' family's ranch. That part of the Hurwitz diaspora ended out in Montana as ranchers, which blew my mind. I did not think there were any members of our family or any Jewish ranchers in Montana whatsoever. And so getting to meet them and hear some stories from growing up and some of Shirley's other siblings that I'd never heard about, and their story of moving west and their stories about Shirley as a kid and growing up were fascinating. So though I didn't have a lot of these specific stories, and though I didn't get a lot of the specific advice that was passed on to the generation above mine, the kindness and compassion that she embodied was so obviously passed on to Tina and Lois and onto the grandkids. And I can still see that in them and feel that in myself. And that's direct line from her. So thank you to my mom for that kindness and compassion. Thanks.
Aviva, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I'm Tina's sister-in-law, Steve Stein's wife. And I didn't really know Shirley that well, but I saw her at a few Thanksgiving dinners at Eric and Tina's home, and she was always so welcoming, and everything everyone's saying is so true. She just looked so sophisticated and beautiful and happy and refined. And I only knew her through her relationship with her daughters. And I think it was really unusual how close they were. Many of my girlfriends don't have that kind of relationship with each other and their mother and the granddaughter. So I think it's a real testimony to what kind of person she was. And she's definitely a role model. And Tina and Lois probably suffered an awful loss, but I'm sure she's here in spirit with you, and she'll always be inside you.
Betsy Rich, I see your hand is up. You can unmute.
Yes.
You did. Okay. Oh, you muted again. I'm sorry, you'll need to unmute again.
Hi, we were friends of Bob and Shirley's, and Eric and Tina back when they met, and then Bob and Shirley many years later when they met. And I remember they met at a arranged tennis game between Bob and Shirley at Eric and Tina's house. And they seemed to just hit it off. Shirley was so lovely. She had me help her tuck her tennis balls so that she could go out and play. And she made me feel instantly at ease. I was so comfortable around her. And she was always, as everyone has said, and I hate to repeat it, but she was always warm and welcoming and such a kind and genuine person. I was always glad to see her. And even when she probably did not remember who I was, she would always be speaking from the heart and in great kindness. I will carry her with me forever. I see Michael Steele's hand is up, but I'm also told Nancy Harrison. Are you ready to speak? And if so, go ahead and unmute.
I am Bob McKinstry's sister-in-law. My sister Betsy passed in 1998, and for 2 years, Bob just seems lonely, and then Shirley came into his life, and it absolutely changed. He said he felt young again. Shirley made him feel young again, and it was just so delightful always to be with the two of them, because they were just so happy. And I remember that Tina and Eric had the two of them for dinner one time, hoping that they would enjoy one another, and immediately they did. And one time we were playing games at John McKinstry's house, and Bobby was leading the games, and he said that I was talking to Tina. I mean, I was talking to Shirley, but Bobby said I called her Betsy, and I said, well, she's my sister. So Tina was like a sister, although I didn't live in the Philadelphia area and then live in the center of Pennsylvania. All the times that I did see Shirley and Bob together, Shirley just seemed like my sister. She was so warm and welcoming and lovely. And I'm very grateful that she was in our lives.
Michael, I see that your hand is up, so you can unmute. And go ahead. You'll have to unmute first, Michael. Okay.
I'm Michael Steele, and I am Shirley's nephew. My mother and Shirley were sisters, and they were more than sisters. They were bound by so many different aspects of their lives that they were always, at least in their later part of their lives, they were always addressed as the sisters. But I recall that since I was a little kid, if it was Saturday, whether we were in Washington, D.C., or Lansdale, or Ambler, the Steeles would pile into their car and go to visit Aunt Shirley and Uncle Dick, or they would come to visit us in Washington or in Princeton. And Tina and Lois were like sisters to me. And Aunt Shirley truly was like my second mother. And growing up from a little boy into even when I was in college, I always could count on getting good advice from Aunt Shirley on anything that was troubling me. And I remember one time, and I went to school in Montana, so I was driving from Bozeman, Montana to Princeton, New Jersey to visit my parents. I think I was maybe a sophomore in college. And I had a little Volkswagen. At the time, Volkswagens didn't have fuel gauges. And as I was coming across on the way to Princeton, I was passing by Ambler, and I had to flip the switch to go from the gas tank to the reserve tank in the Volkswagen, which has 1 gallon of gas. And I was able to pull into Aunt Shirley's place and Uncle Dick. And I sat down and they invited me to have dinner. And she said, "How is it you're passing by here?" I said, "Well, I was just on my way home to visit Mom and Dad, and I noticed I was low on gas, so I thought I'd stop in and then I'd go get some gasoline." And in true spirit of Aunt Shirley, she came over and gave me a hug and whipped out $20 and said to me, "Here, take this." I said, "Aunt Shirley, I don't need your money." She says, "College kids never have money. I want you to take this." And it's with a heavy heart that I tell you, I miss Aunt Shirley dearly. She's been a part of my life for so long. And Tina and Lois, my heart goes out to you. The only good thing about this is I think that Shirley has reunited with my mother, Marion, and heaven is lucky to have both of them. They're extraordinary people. And Aunt Shirley was one of the most beautiful people inside and outside. She was like a model. So Tina and Lois and the rest of the family and the friends that are online, I know I join you in wishing that she and her spirit will forever be with us.
Bob McKinstry, I see that your hand is up. Did you wish to speak? You'll need to unmute.
Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to say a brief thing. So, Dad, like Aunt Nancy said, and others, Dad was really, was very extremely sad after my mom died. We still worked around the farm, but then when he met Shirley, he was gung ho to go meet Shirley. And I remember Shirley wasn't quite sure about the long distance. So Dad would start going for just 2 days a week, and then he would go for 3 days, and then he went for 4 days. And he just always couldn't wait to drive up to, because it was a long, I think it was over an hour.
It's about
50 miles.
It's about an
Yeah,
hour.
yeah. Couldn't wait to go see Shirley. And they would go to Thelma's down in Florida for the winter. And then I got stuck taking care of the sheep. And so that went on for several years. And just they were both great bridge players, and they were both wonderful dancers. And I had a lot of fun playing bridge with them. But anyway, they just were a really fun, happy couple.
I'm told that Jocelyn has her hand up. Jocelyn, would you like to unmute and speak?
Yes, I am Jocelyn. I am great Steele. I'm great. Our great Aunt Shirley's niece, and she's been a rock to our family, and she's been an outstanding mother and to Tina and Lois, and she always brightens the room when she smiles. And Mary and her sister, when they always have a good budding relationship with each other, and they always know how to keep this family together. And Shirley, she'll be in my heart forever, and I know that Tina and Lois will always be thought of and loved very much. And I just know that wherever I go, Shirley will be with me, and I love her dearly, and Tina and Lois too. Love you, Aunt Shirley. Whoops.
Vicky, I see your hand is up.
Hi, my name is Vicky Enright, and I am the daughter of her second husband, Victor. And, Shirley came into our family during kind of post-divorce from my first stepmother. But I know that, so she came into a good bit of trouble within the family because there was, repercussions. But she was a bright light, and I know my father, who dated for like a year every Saturday night and Wednesday night to find his next mate, found Shirley, and she was a bright light, and he fell heavily for her. And I think vice versa. We had a big family, and Shirley knew that she couldn't tackle some of the problems that were occurring at that time. This is 40 years ago, but she helped in so many ways, in ways that she could. She'd buy clothes for my younger brothers. She taught me how to make pesto and miso soup. She just, I used to run to her apartment. I was a big runner back then, and I would run to her apartment. And she was always just like, as people have been saying, and I almost wasn't going to repeat what other people have been saying. Oh, most of the time, happy to see you, help where she could. Even after my father had to go into a nursing home because of dementia, she still had me and my son come down, and we still have this big, huge, we went into a thrift shop, and my son just saw this dinosaur, and it was a stuffed dinosaur, and she just was like, let me get it, Vicky, let me get it. She was so, like I said, could be generous wherever. And then I remember I had to go to like some sort of a conference down in Philadelphia area. And she's like, come stay with me and Bob. And it's just like what other people are saying. She wanted to show me around. She was still kind to me, I don't know, 15 years after my dad died. We lost touch a little bit. And then I called to, I don't know, try to stay in touch. And she remembered my dad. My dad and I have the same name, Victor. I'm Vicky, Victoria. She couldn't remember me, but she remembered my dad. Why not? He was important to her at a certain point in her life. And I just remember that she always wanted to connect the different parts of her life with her daughters, with Bob, us, the Crafts kids. She just wanted everybody to like get together and, be a part of her world. And that was really touching. And one last thing, I'm so touched that I think it's been 10 years that I've been out of touch. I'm very touched because I was wondering if this was going to happen when Shirley finally went to heaven, I think. I I'm very touched by Tina and Lois getting in touch with us, and that means a lot. So thank you.
Allie and Dave, I see that your hand is up.
Thanks. And Betty, you're doing a great job. Thank you so much. Vicki, it's so wonderful to have you here. Thank you for joining us. And it's so wonderful to see so many people that have been in my mom's life. I'm Tina's daughter, Allie, and these are Shirley's two great grandchildren, Finley and Spencer. And she used to call Spencer Big Eyes because he's got big eyes, and I think it gave her a lot of joy to be able to be part of her great grandchildren's lives. I echo everything my brother said, John, and that it's been so great to hear some of these stories. I knew my grandmother was a social worker, but I didn't know that she worked in schools and was involved in caring for children, and that's what I do in my career. So it's been great to learn about that and feel that there's that common thread there. It's in our genes. I just want to say, Jocelyn, thanks for speaking. I haven't seen you in so long. It's great to see you. One thing I'll always remember about my mom is taking her to high holiday services at her temple. When I went to medical school in Philadelphia, I used to drive out and pick her up and bring her. And we were able to share our faith in that way. And know Judaism was so important to my mom, and she was so proud to have me there. She would introduce me to all her friends at temple and say, "This is my granddaughter," and it was very special. So I'll always remember that. And thanks, Mom, for organizing this.
And I'll throw one more lighthearted story. I came into the family 10 years ago this year, and my first Thanksgiving at Tina and Eric's house, Shirley was there. I think she was 90 years old. And they said, "Oh, she likes cards." And I had brought a deck of cards. "Why don't you go play cards?" Like, okay. And she's so nice. She's so sweet. Well, she wasn't during cards. I start losing hand after hand, and then I start being more aggressive. And she said, "Oh, Piggy wants some more cards. Pick him up, Piggy. Oink, oink." I'm like, "Who is this person?" And then other people came in, and she's like, "Hello, everybody." So she had the competitive edge when it came to cards with friends and family, which I loved. And that's personally, because it was the first time I had met her, the most impactful story that I had in our experience together. But that makes me smile.
Lois, go ahead and speak.
Hi, everybody. My name's Alana Becerra. I'm the daughter of Lois, Shirley's daughter, and I just wanted to share two pretty distinct memories that I have with my grandma Shirley. I always called her Grandma Shirley. The first one is she taught me probably the only recipe I've ever memorized. I'm not a cook. I remember I was younger, and she taught me how to make fried matzah. And she was very patient with me because, again, I'm not a cook. I did not know what she was doing. But she was so patient, and she was such a great teacher that immediately after she taught me, I started repeating the recipe. And I made it so many times that I think she probably taught me when I was 8 or 9. And I still remember the exact measurements, everything that goes into this recipe to this day, because it was so meaningful for her to take the time to teach me, as young as I was, a recipe that was important to her and then became very important to me, and it's delicious. Another memory I have, I was going to a middle school dance and I didn't know what to wear. And so I was asking my mom, and my grandma was visiting, what I should wear to the dance. I wanted to look good. And I with the help of grandma, she ended up helping me pick this outfit that I thought was just so cool. And I remember my first thought just being, I have the coolest grandma ever, because she was just so great at putting these clothes together. And that's definitely where my mom gets her fashion from. But all this to say is she just made such an effort with everybody, especially me and my sister when we were younger, to teach us. And she was patient with us. It didn't matter our age. And she just gave us so much attention, and we just felt so incredibly loved by her. And everything is just a testament to what amazing mother she is to raise my mom, because I believe I have the best mom in the whole world and the best Aunt Tina in the whole world. And of course, they came from somebody as incredible as Shirley. And I'm just so grateful for not only her, but my mom. She is a part of who Shirley was and how she raised others. And I'm just impressed with everything she achieved. And I love continuing to learn about her. And I just know that she's going to continue to impact us for years to come with these beautiful stories. So thank you, everybody, for sharing. It means the world to all of us. And yeah, we love her, and she's incredibly missed.
Betty, we have someone who would like to share in the auditorium.
All right. Please go ahead.
This is Karen Darlington Halstead. I took care of Bobby when he was 3, Polly when she was 1, and we welcomed 2 more as I took care of them through the years. Bob always said that he paid for my college education. Only he thought that. But I met Shirley when he brought her to dances at the Kennett Senior Center when I was on the board. And they came once a month because Kennett is a lovely little town, but there's no dance hall. And the Kennett Area Senior Center sponsored a dance every month. And what a delight. And I took pictures of the 2 of them dancing, she with a broad smile. But when in the world did she never have a broad smile? Here at Kendal, I welcomed her. I often ate dinner with them. And she was really pretty picky, Tina, about the desserts. Because if one dessert didn't go, she wanted another one. So I was a testament to that, just in case. But through her good times and bad times here, she always had a smile. I always connected with her when I saw her in Westmoreland, which was frequently. I am going to miss her. We're all going to miss her. What a delight. And cherish these stories. These stories of your mother, grandmother, relatives, friends will live forever.
There's someone raising their hand, LADDSB.
I'm Brian, Tina, and Lois. Your mother meant so much to so many people, including to my mother, Pauline. who's listening in on this today. My mother has said many times that Shirley was like a big sister to her. And she would recount how my mom stayed with your folks in Washington, D.C. when my mother was in her early 20s. And your folks were inviting, hospitable, warm, and generous. My mom had few possessions, and I think your mom gave her clothes. This is how I remember your mom, and that she was genuinely interested in caring about the lives of others, including me. She passed her fine attributes on to her children, and through them, Tina and Lois, to your children. And I have little doubt that these blessings will in turn be bestowed on the next generation. I feel your sadness and deep sense of loss. I also feel a sense of good fortune and privilege to have shared precious moments together with my Aunt Shirley.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei rabbah, v'yalma divra kirute, v'yamlik malchute, b'chayachon v'yamakon, ufhaye dachol beit Yisrael, ba'agalav v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevorach, le'olam ule'omai almaya, yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitrama, v'yitnaseh, V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudusha b'rechu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shalom rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mramav huya asei shalom aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Tina and Lois, is there something you'd like to say? If not, we will close this celebration of Shirley's life. And I invite Kendal residents and staff who are here to join us for some refreshments. It was my honor to know Shirley. I have one short story. It was 2019. And she was having some memory issues, and we had a very large Seder with 75 people here in this auditorium. And Shirley really wanted to participate, but she wasn't sure how. And so I asked her if she would please light the candles before we started the Seder. And as gracious as she could be, she said, "Will you stand with me because I'm not sure I remember all the words." But she did, and she did a wonderful job. And I will carry that memory in my heart.
I just want to thank everyone for being here and for the wonderful stories. I'm so glad there's a recording because I want to go back and listen to the whole thing all over again. And thank you for the Kendal team who were just made this a delight, made it so easy for us. And I hope to see all of you. I feel like my mother has succeeded in this last act of bringing a lot of us back together again. And I'm just feeling the love from all of you, and I hope we will all stay in touch. So thanks for being here.